What if I told you that um, the purpose of your life, like the core drive that gets you out of bed, the thing you value most in this world, might actually just be an auto-filled result generated by a biological algorithm right behind your forehead?
Yeah, it is a deeply unsettling proposition when you really think about it. I mean, we like to think of our purpose as something cosmic,
Yeah.
something written in the stars.
Right, not just a frantic calculation made by this desperate organ inside our skull.
Exactly. It completely flips the script on how we view
It
ourselves.
really does. Well, welcome to our deep dive. I want you, the listener, to picture this scenario for a second.
Okay.
Um, you are traveling in a massive, sprawling, completely unfamiliar foreign city. You don't speak the language. You don't recognize the street
A
signs.
total fish out of water.
Exactly. And suddenly your smartphone dies. The screen just goes black.
Mm-hmm.
You have no GPS, no map, no little blue dot telling you where you are or where you need to go.
That is a terrifying feeling.
Right? That sudden, visceral spike of panic in your chest. That is the terror of losing your external compass. So today's mission is to explore what happens when we apply that exact same panic to the biggest question humanity has ever asked. Where does meaning actually come from?
Is it like something we discover out there in the universe, or is it something we invent entirely in our own heads just to keep ourselves from panicking in the dark?
Yes. And to get into this, we're looking at a really fascinating dialogue between two thinkers, Nick and Maya, who explore this concept they call the meaning machine.
And, to really do this justice, we have to look past the abstract sort of dorm room philosophy. We have to ground this in the hard mechanics of human biology.
Yeah, because we aren't just getting philosophical here, right?
Mm.
We need to examine how the literal hardware of your brain dictates the software of your beliefs.
Exactly.
So I want to start right at the foundation they build in this dialogue, because it really addresses why that loss of a compass feels so biologically threatening to us.
Hmm.
Nick and Maya propose a thought experiment that is, honestly, it's paralyzing.
It really is.
They ask you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning, opening your eyes, and realizing you have absolutely zero purpose. Nothing matters. Nothing has value.
Right. And it sounds like just a philosophical exercise, but in a clinical setting, that state actually has a name. It's profound depression.
Wow. Wow.
A complete vacuum of meaning isn't just an intellectual problem, It registers in the body as a literal existential threat.
Because you just shut down.
Exactly. Biologically speaking, if you have no reason to act, you don't act. You wouldn't gather food, you wouldn't seek shelter, you wouldn't connect with others. You would simply expire.
So meaning isn't just this, like, luxury for poets and philosophers.
Yeah,
It is quite literally a survival mechanism.
absolutely. The dialogue describes meaning as a psychological compass that tells us where to go and why, and this is where the neuroscience becomes so crucial.
Okay, lay it on us.
So we're talking primarily about the prefrontal cortex. This region of the brain doesn't just passively record the world like a video camera taking in raw footage. It operates on a framework called predictive processing.
Okay, break that down for me. Like, what does predictive processing actually look like in our day-to-day lives?
Well, think of the brain as a highly advanced prediction engine. To save energy, your brain constantly generates these top-down models of what it expects to happen next.
Like it's trying to stay one step ahead.
Exactly. It demands narratives, patterns, and cause and effect explanations to make the world predictable. And when something happens that doesn't fit the narrative,
It kind of freaks out.
right, it generates an error signal, which you experience consciously as anxiety, confusion, or stress.
Okay, I was actually trying to visualize this mechanism while reading through our sources. And the best analogy I could come up with is that the human brain operates like a highly aggressive, hyperactive search engine.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like, when you start typing a random question into a search bar, and before you even hit the space bar, it aggressively tries to autofill the rest of your sentence.
Yes, pulling from a massive database of past patterns to guess your destination before you arrive.
That is exactly what our brains are doing with our daily experiences. Our brain is constantly trying to autofill the why behind absolutely everything that happens to us.
It really is.
You get a flat tire on the way to a job interview, and your brain's search engine immediately autofills, like, oh, this happened because I am self-sabotaging. Or maybe this happened because the universe is protecting me from a toxic workplace.
Right. Or you meet a stranger on a train, and the brain autofills, we met because it was destiny. The brain just cannot stand an empty search bar.
It really can't.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The brain abhors a vacuum. And neurologically, when your brain successfully autofills that search bar, when it finds a pattern or constructs a narrative that makes sense of the chaos, it releases dopamine.
Oh, interesting. So it's rewarding us.
Exactly. We often think of dopamine merely as the pleasure chemical, but it is actually the motivation chemical. It rewards us for making sense of the world, reinforcing the very narratives we just invented.
See, I am struggling with a major implication here, though. If we are biologically forced by our prefrontal cortex to find meaning, if we literally cannot function without that aggressive search engine constantly rewarding us with dopamine for finding patterns, doesn't that fundamentally skew our perspective?
How do you mean?
Well, does our biological hunger for a compass mean the universe actually has a built-in meaning? Or
Yeah.
does it just mean our brains are desperately starved for one?
You are hitting on the critical distinction here between biology and cosmology. Our internal craving for a map does not guarantee that the external universe has actually drawn one for us.
Right.
Think about the sensation of physical thirst. The fact that your throat is dry and your body demands water proves that your biology requires hydration to survive.
Yeah.
It absolutely does not prove that there is a glass of water sitting on the table in front of you.
Man, that is a sobering thought. The hunger proves the necessity of the food, not the presence of it.
Precisely. The prefrontal cortex's demand for a narrative is an evolutionary adaptation. It allowed early humans to organize into cooperative societies, to anticipate danger by reading patterns in the weather.
Or animal migrations, stuff like that.
Exactly, and eventually to build complex civilizations. But that internal, localized survival mechanism does not automatically imply that the vast, expanding cosmos has a grand, predetermined script written in the stars just for us.
Okay, so if the hardware of our brain is just desperate for any software to run, where do we get the original code? If the universe didn't give us a map, how do we know where to go?
Well, the sources address this through the concept of the blank slate. The idea is that no human being is born with a predetermined, universally assigned purpose. When you arrive in this world, your search bar is completely empty.
But it doesn't stay empty for long.
No, not at all. It fills up almost immediately. And this happens through neuroplasticity and early childhood development.
Just absorbing everything around us.
Right. Long before your conscious, rational mind is mature enough to question anything, your subconscious mind is acting like a sponge. Through mirror neurons and environmental feedback, you are absorbing the cultural narratives that surround you.
So you basically download the software of your parents, your community, your religion, the media. You absorb the local definitions of success, of what is moral, of what makes a life valuable, simply by observing what the adults around you are doing.
Yes. And because this code is written into your neural pathways before you even have the language to articulate it, it becomes an incredibly powerful, almost invisible force.
It's just treated as a given.
Exactly. The dialogue makes a really stark observation to highlight this. People rarely die for money. Humans will negotiate over resources, they will compromise on territory.
But they willingly sacrifice their own lives, they topple empires, and they fight brutal wars over beliefs, ideals, and narratives.
Meaning is the most volatile fuel on the planet.
It really is.
Yeah.
But I have to push back here a little bit on behalf of anyone listening who might feel a bit uneasy about this idea. If we just absorb our core sense of purpose from our local environment before we can even speak, doesn't that make our personal meaning entirely accidental?
It does sound like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it makes it sound like a geographic lottery. Like if I am born in 12th century Tibet, my brain autofills with a completely different set of purposes than if I am born in 21st century New York.
I completely understand why that feels uncomfortable. It implies a certain fragility to the things we hold most sacred. It suggests that the core purpose driving your life right now is largely a product of historical and geographical chance.
Which feels like it just strips all the magic away from it.
It can feel that way. Historically, humanity has relied on rigid cultural and religious systems to prevent that exact feeling of fragility.
To give us a solid foundation.
Right. Those systems provided the ultimate, unquestionable map. They offered a top-down narrative that said, this is not an accident, this is the objective truth of the universe.
And the dialogue between Nick and Maya forces us to examine the mechanics of that. Like, are those narratives universally true, or are they incredibly effective survival tools developed by specific groups in specific environments to keep their collective search engines from crashing?
Exactly.
And just a quick note for you, the listener. We are absolutely not taking a stance on the validity of any specific belief system here. We are simply examining the neurological and sociological mechanisms of how the human brain adopts them.
Right, keeping it strictly to the science of it. And the realization that our deepest sense of purpose might be environmentally inherited rather than universally decreed, it often triggers a profound existential crisis.
Yeah, I bet.
When you pull the rug out and suggest there is no pre-written universal script, people naturally feel adrift.
But our sources point out that once you get past that initial panic, the realization is incredibly liberating. It shifts the entire paradigm from a blank slate to a blank canvas.
And that is a crucial reframing. A blank slate implies something is missing, right? Like a void waiting to be written on by an outside authority.
Yeah, like you're waiting for instructions.
Exactly. But a blank canvas implies agency. If the universe has no assigned destiny for you, you are completely free to pick up a brush and paint your own. Meaning isn't hiding under a rock in the woods waiting to be discovered. It is waiting to be actively created by you.
I love that. Which brings us to my favorite part of the source material, the distinction between cosmic meaning and micro meaning. Because I think this is a trap almost all of us fall into. We burn so much mental energy searching for these gigantic overarching destinies.
Oh, absolutely. We want a grand, unifying equation that explains our existence. We want to solve the meaning of life in capital letters.
Yeah. It is like we are standing in a lush, blooming field, looking through a massive, high-powered telescope, desperately trying to find the purpose of the cosmos out in some distant galaxy.
And missing everything around us.
Right. While we are staring through the lens looking for cosmic validation, our feet are completely trampling the beautiful, vibrant garden growing right beneath us.
The micro meanings. The sources argue forcefully that obsessing over a cosmic narrative blinds us to the profound meaning generated in our immediate reality.
Like what, specifically?
Well, a parent rocking a child to sleep, a farmer cultivating crops, a doctor treating a patient, an artist struggling to capture a feeling on canvas. These actions do not require cosmic validation to be deeply, fundamentally meaningful.
That makes so much sense. The sources actually use a classic thought experiment about two builders to illustrate how powerful this cognitive shift can be. But let's look at it through the lens of what we just discussed about the brain.
Okay, let's do it.
So imagine two builders standing side by side. They are placing identical bricks, using the exact same mortar, sweating under the exact same hot sun.
Oh.
If you ask the first builder what he's doing, he says, I am stacking bricks.
He is providing a purely literal mechanical description of his reality.
Exactly. But if you ask the second builder, he says, I am building a school that will educate future generations. It is the exact same physical labor, burning the exact same amount of calories.
Yet their internal biological reality is entirely different.
Not so.
Well, the first builder is likely burning through sheer willpower, enduring the labor as a meaningless friction. His brain is not rewarding him.
So no dopamine.
Right. The second builder, however, has aligned his top-down predictive model with a high-value narrative. Because his prefrontal cortex has mapped this physical labor to a greater purpose, his brain is actively supplying him with intrinsic motivation networks and dopamine.
Wow.
He is experiencing a profound sense of contribution. The meaning he created changed his actual physical experience of the work.
Because he chose to paint a richer picture on his canvas. That's incredible. But this leads to a natural question that Maya brings up in the text. Who gets to decide which canvas is better? Who is right?
It's a tough question.
Is it the person who finds meaning in religion, the person who finds it in scientific discovery, or the person who finds it purely in raising a family?
The source offers a brilliant analogy here using music. Consider the concept of beauty in a piece of music. There is no single objective mathematical equation you can plug into a computer to prove that a song is definitively universally beautiful. You cannot put notes into a spreadsheet and calculate a beauty quotient.
Right. And what moves one person to tears might sound like just chaotic noise to someone else.
Yet, the subjective experience of that beauty is undeniably real to the listener. It physically alters their heart rate, it induces chills, it elevates their mood.
It's a real biological response.
Exactly, and meaning functions in the exact same way. It lacks an objective mathematical formula, but its reality within human experience is absolute. Whether you construct that meaning through science, service, community, or faith, the meaning itself is a very real force.
But there is a massive warning label attached to this in the sources. The true danger in human history arises when we forget that we painted the canvas ourselves.
Yes.
The conflict starts when humans mistake their highly specific subjective path to meaning as the one singular, objective path that everyone else must follow.
Dogma. When we project our internally generated software onto the external universe and demand that others run the same code, we invite tyranny.
Which brings us to the ultimate hurdle of this deep dive. If there is no objective reality to our meaning, and we are completely free to invent whatever code we want to run, what stops us from spiraling into nihilism?
It's the natural next fear.
Yeah. What stops someone from deciding that their personal meaning is just acquiring immense power at the expense of everyone else? How do we evaluate if a meaning is actually good?
Well, the evaluation metric has to shift. The vital question is no longer, is this meaning objectively true? The question becomes, does this specific meaning make the human experience demonstrably better or worse? We have to judge the software by the outputs it generates in the real world.
Because history leaves a very clear paper trail on this. Meaning can act as the ultimate unifier, inspiring unimaginable acts of self-sacrifice and compassion.
Right.
But it can also be weaponized to violently divide us, allowing humans to justify the most horrific cruelty imaginable in the name of a greater purpose.
The builders stacking bricks might be building a school for children, or they might be building a gulag. The internal narrative drives the external outcome.
So where does the dialogue finally land on how we navigate this? How do we ensure we are building schools instead of prisons?
Nick arrives at a deeply pragmatic conclusion. He suggests that the purpose of life isn't a treasure hidden at the edge of the universe. It emerges organically from how people treat one another while they're here.
I could hear the listener thinking, come on, that sounds like a generic greeting card platitude. Just be nice to each other.
Yeah, it does sound simple, but let's ground it back in the behavioral science we've been discussing.
Okay.
If our brains are meaning machines that require constant narrative input to stave off psychological collapse, then our interactions with others are the primary data feed.
Oh, I see.
Treating others with compassion and building cooperative systems isn't just a nice moral idea, it creates a biobehavioral feedback loop.
Wait, how does that work?
When you act in ways that improve the shared human experience, you receive reciprocal, social, and neurological feedback that stabilizes your prefrontal cortex's predictive model. It literally keeps the machine running smoothly.
Okay, I see where you're going. It frames meaning not as a destination you arrive at, but as a living process. It's like a daily subscription model.
I like that.
You don't just find your passion one sunny afternoon in your 20s, permanently check that box, and coast for the rest of your life.
No, it is not a fixed asset you can put in a vault. If you stop acting out the meaning, the neural pathways weaken. It is neuroplasticity in real time.
This completely reframes how you, the listener, should approach your morning tomorrow. It means you have to wake up and consciously decide to generate that meaning all over again.
Every single day.
You have to renew the subscription through your choices and actions. It shifts us from being passive consumers sitting in the audience waiting for the universe to entertain us into being the active directors of the play.
The weight of that responsibility is heavy. If the canvas is blank, you can no longer blame the universe for a poor painting.
Right.
But the sheer freedom and agency that comes with holding the brush is unparalleled.
It puts all the power directly in our hands. But our sources do not let us off the hook that easily, do they? Just when we feel empowered and ready to paint, they drop a massive conceptual bomb at the very end of the dialogue.
They do. They tease the next logical and frankly dangerous frontier of this philosophy.
Oh boy.
If we accept that meaning is created entirely by our choices, do we actually possess the free will to make those choices?
Wow.
Or if we are just sophisticated biological machines responding to neurofeedback loops and environmental conditioning, is free will itself just another narrative auto-filled by our brains?
Oh man, the illusion of choice.
Ah,
We are definitely going to have to dedicate an entire future deep dive to unpacking that nightmare.
we absolutely are.
But before we wrap up today's exploration, we want to ask you to turn that analytical lens on your own life. Look closely at what gives you purpose right now today. Your career, your relationships, your ambitions. Did you intentionally choose to value those things?
Or did you just quietly download the software from your environment?
Exactly. Are you actively painting your own canvas? Or are you just tracing a projection that someone else shined onto it?
It is a vital inventory to take. And, to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over something that isn't directly in the text we read, but is kind of the undeniable next step in this evolution.
Lay it on us.
We have spent this time establishing that human brains are biological meaning-making machines, driven by a predictive cortex to story our existence. But we are currently standing on the threshold of an era defined by advanced artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we really are.
We are literally engineering non-biological machines that are designed to seek patterns, process complex language, and synthesize narratives.
The ultimate literal search engines.
Exactly. So, what happens when an advanced AI seeking to minimize its own error functions and optimize its predictive models begins to story its own existence?
Oh, wow.
If we accept the premise that meaning is not an objective truth discovered in the cosmos, but rather a subjective narrative invented by a complex, pattern-seeking machine, will an AI's self-generated sense of purpose be fundamentally any less real than the one generated by the meat computer inside our skulls?
That is wild. If meaning is just a pattern painted on a blank canvas to keep the system from crashing, does the universe care if the brush is held by a biological hand or a digital one?
Right. If the compass effectively guides you through the dark, does it really matter who magnetized the needle?
That thought is going to echo in my head for days. And I hope it keeps you thinking too. Remember, if you find yourself lost in that unfamiliar city and your screen goes black, acknowledging that you've lost your map is only the first step. You still have to decide which direction to start walking. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go out there today, pick up your brush, and paint something brilliant on your blank canvas.